Hey Rockstars, Vane here, and welcome back to Tweaking 101. Holy mother of God, it has been a long time since I've done one of these. Jeez, it's been like, what, 2 years? Thereabouts. Last time I covered the Unreal Engine, but what is this series about, you ask, Vane? Well, glad you asked. Well, not really, it's kind of self-explanatory, but anyway, I digress. This is the series that teaches you how to tweak games like a pro. Why do I want to tweak games, you ask? Well, it's pretty simple. You can tweak games to garner better performance through your frame rate, or you can actually boost the visuals in-game to maximize your visual graphical fidelity. So, either or, take your pick, depending on the system specs you're rocking. So, in this installment, we are covering the Dunia engine. Dunia? I don't know how it's pronounced. Anyway, it's that one engine that powers Far Cry 2 through 4. And then we're having a look at... So, actually, you're getting a double feature. And by the way, this is completely off the cuff. I can't speak right now. So this is completely off the cuff. You can obviously tell I'm not reading from a script here. So, yeah, you're seeing my desktop. Do you see a script there? No. So I'm flying by the seat of my pants, just to warn you guys. Now, we are going to feature the Dunia engine. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. If I'm not, well, 0 fucks given. And then we're also going to dive into Skyrim's engine, which happens to be the creation engine, which was also used in Fallout, well, the Fallout series as a whole, really. Also the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion, all the way up to Skyrim. So, without further ado, let's tackle first Far Cry 4. Let's go ahead and open that up. Normally, if you're rocking the Steam versions of these games, well, even if you're, yo-ho-ho in a bottle of rum, pirate type, you'll probably find these files in the exact same spot, but I'm rocking the Steam versions here, as you can see. We have the Elder Scrolls 5 Skyrim Legendary Edition happening here. You can see all the other friends I have that play this game. They're all awesome, because they play Skyrim. Skyrim's a fucking awesome game. Okay, and we also have Far Cry 4, which is actually half-decent game now that it's actually been patched to, well, work. That only took you long enough, Ubisoft, but that's a completely different story altogether. So, yeah, if you haven't watched the rant episode of R726CX Gaming, go watch that, because if you want to hear my thoughts on Ubisoft at this point, well, you can't see right now, but I'm holding up a middle finger for you, Ubisoft. Fuck you. Okay, so let's dive into Far Cry 4, the Dunia engine. Okay, so you're going to be presented with this folder here, okay? And by the way, I digress. Look at the top, okay? So we obviously want to go into Documents. We want to go to My Games. And then we want to select, obviously, Far Cry 4, correct? Correct. Now, once we're in the Far Cry 4 folder, this is the jumbly mess that you're going to see, okay? You following so far? That's good. Let's go. So open that sucker up and we're going to find Game Profile. Now, it's largely the same for Far Cry 3 and 4. I haven't actually, yeah, that's not fully correct. I was going to say I haven't tweaked Far Cry 2, but I actually have. The thing is, with Far Cry 2, it's a little different. In Far Cry 2, you actually have to enter commands into the console. So yeah, it is a little bit different, but Far Cry 3 and 4 are a little bit easier to tweak, but I'm going to tell you right now, and I'll level with you, you're not going to be able to tweak Far Cry 3 or 4 to make it playable on very low-end systems. It's just not possible. This is more for mid-range to high-end computers that are just looking to squeeze a little more, excuse me, frog in my throat. Ribbit. Okay, so this is for mid-level to high-end computers that are looking to squeeze just a few more frames per second out of their system. Okay, so you will notice this immediately. Game Profile. It's an XML document. So what does that mean? Well, it's a file that's normally, not supposed to be open, yada yada. It's normally a file that opens in, like, Internet Explorer, but who uses Internet Explorer? I mean, really. Look at my taskbar. Do you see the Internet Explorer icon anywhere? You're fucking right, you don't. Okay, so what do we want to do with this? We want to right click. We want to open with. See that option? We're going to open up. Fuck you, Internet Explorer. Oh, look, you make an appearance now. Okay, now we want to open it up with a notepad. So remember, open with notepad. Okay? Oh my Jesus, the font is huge. Let's go ahead and fix that first. We are experiencing technical difficulties. So, like I said, I'm flying by the seat of my pants here. Don't expect high production quality by any stretch of the imagination. I'm surprised I'm still able to prattle along so efficiently. Okay, for most of my reviews and stuff, I normally am working off a script, but not here because, total boss material right now. Okay, so what do we want to look for in here? It probably would have been far better if I had have enabled, you guys to actually see my pointer in hindsight. But you know what? I'll just highlight the variables as we go. So let's look for a few things that can unfuckulate Far Cry 4. So, for example, normally I recommend first launching the game, setting the desired settings. Like say you're on like a mid-level system that's pulling about 30 frames per second in low settings. The settings I'm going to show you to tweak will probably garner you a significant boost anyway at best. So what you're going to want to do, okay, is jump in game first, set everything to low, then come back to this, okay? Now, once you have the ideal settings set in the game itself, come back here. We're going to find several things. First of all, let's see here. You know what, actually, I'm doing this the hard way when we can just hit Control plus F. So, that's on screen right now, in case you're wondering. See it? Control plus F. It equals love. No, it actually equals the find tool. So, bring that sucker up. We're going to type in a little something called alpha. Actually, just type in alpha. You don't need to type in the rest because there's nothing else in here with the word alpha. So, where am I going with this? Right here. So, you can clearly see it highlighted right here. Okay? Now, Alpha2 Coverage. Now, not only am I going to be showing you guys the variables to tweak and get the hell off of there, okay, I'm also going to explain in depth what each of these do and what you can expect graphically as the impact. Okay, so Alpha2 Coverage, first and foremost. This, from my understanding after researching it, is a form of anti-aliasing, get this, for vegetation in-game. So, this right here is already completely useless. If you're not a big proponent of using anti-aliasing or any form of it, like I ain't, which I fucking hate anti-aliasing, even if I had the most top-end system in the world, I would not use anti-aliasing for the simple fact that all it does is cause input lag, especially if you're engaged in a competitive multiplayer environment. You do not want this enabled. It is a detriment to you. It will cause severe input lag at times, and that can be the thing between life and death in a game. So, any form of anti-aliasing, like I said, I can't talk right now for some odd reason, equals bad. It equals very bad. Turn it off. It will only benefit you. So, this shit right here, okay, this is a separate form of anti-aliasing specifically for shrubs, bushes, trees, grass. Sounds pretty damn useless. And by the way, turning this off, there is literally no visual impact on the game whatsoever. So what you want to do is, normally this is set to 1 by default. So normally you'll see this, Alpha2 Coverage 1. We want to, obviously, stop highlighting it. Okay, there we go. So we want to change that to a 0. Goes without saying, 0, kinda, disabled, right? Kinda only makes sense, right? Okay, so once that is set to 0, you have successfully disabled that stupid feature. Yay! But don't make yourself a congratulatory sandwich just yet. We still have a little more tweaking to do here. So the Dunia engine, it's actually pretty straightforward, pretty easy to tweak, no complaints here. There's a few other things we can use to squeeze a few more frames per second or make it feel a little bit more smooth at least. So I'm looking, bingo, there we go. We want GPU max buffered frames. Now, okay, this has been known to cause input lag as well, just to let you know. So, tamper with this sucker at your own risk, okay? A lot of people report, okay, buffered frames set to 1. Me, personally, I have noticed a significant amount of stuttering when the setting is set to 1. A lot of people claim to believe that when this variable is set to 1, it somehow decreases the micro stuttering in Far Cry 4. Not the case for me. I don't know what's different about my system, but at the same time, it could be a difference between AMD and NVIDIA hardware, I believe. Maybe, it's a possibility. But I find setting the frames I swear to God, I can't talk today. It's probably because I just got done working at a call center all day, so that's probably it. And big surprise, I work in tech support. Okay, so GPU max buffered frames, what is that, essentially? So basically, the game itself tries to predict the next frame, okay? So therefore, the frame is already buffered and ready to go. So it can work either way. It can work in your favor or against you if you have it set high like I do, which is, well, I normally set it to 5. You can experiment anywhere between 0 and 5. 0 obviously means completely off. The game is streaming in real time then without predicting the next frame. So I have it set to predict the next 5 frames and buffer ahead. That way, well, for me, it causes a very smooth playback when I am controlling, what's his fuckface character name, holy crap, AJ Gully, that's right, that's his name in game. You see, he's such a memorable character that I completely forgot his name after literally just playing the game about 10 minutes ago. So, it'll tell you how good the writing is in this game already. But, you know, I really should do a review of this game. Now I'm thinking about it. Well, what are you guys thinking about a Far Cry 4 review from your good old pal Vaney? Okay, now let's look for other variables that we can unfuckulate on Ubisoft's behalf. Yeah, nothing really particularly striking, but I know right now, okay? HDR, and why did you just do that? No. Okay, work with me here. Where did it go? Okay, so HDR, that can be safely disabled as well, but prepare for some god-awful lighting if you freaking do this. So, if you really, I mean really don't care about visuals and you want to cause absolute garbage on screen, just to squeeze a little more here we go again. You want to squeeze the most performance out of the game, and you want garbage visuals, go ahead, disable this, but do it at your own risk, because I warn you, garbage visuals are ahead. So, HDR, you know, I used to know what that stands for, but I really couldn't tell you to save my life right now. High dynamic range, duh. Okay, I'm having brain farts tonight, galore. You know, I probably picked a bad night to do this video, but I really don't care. So high dynamic range is obviously something to do with lighting. I can't really tell you specifically, but I know it controls aspects on lens flares and bloom and shaders. So setting this to 0 is going to make the lighting garbage in the game. So again, disable that at your own risk. You want to disable it, obviously you turn the 1 into a pretty little 0, slap it on the ass and send it on its way. No, you don't do that last step, but you get it. Okay, so let's set that back to 1 because I really, I have my limits on graphical garbage. Now the last one, okay, let's bring up our good buddy, the Find tool again. Let's type in MIP. Okay, now it can only bring up one thing. Believe you me, there's only one thing that. And son of a bitch, it was right beside GPU max buffer frames. I completely overlooked it. Well, I'm on a roll tonight. Okay, so disable loading MIP. Now, if you don't know what this is, well, let me explain it very simply. MIP is a big proponent of textures, okay? Now, MIP, it's kind of like an image file, okay, that creates the textures on the ground surfaces, characters, etc., etc. So disabling this, okay, so actually it's kind of the opposite. This is where it gets kind of interesting. So notice the word disable, okay? So it's asking you if you want to disable loading MIP maps. So by choosing 1, you're actually disabling this feature. And inadvertently creating some blocky, muddy, just horrible goddamn textures. Things that will haunt your nightmares. No, but seriously, the textures will be entirely muddy, cloudy, and non-desirable whatsoever. So if you're trying to show off, graphical fidelity. I'm gonna open up a deli. It's gonna be named Fideli. No, if you were trying to show off the visual graphics and fidelity of Far Cry 4, then disabling this is definitely not the way to go about it. But if you want to squeeze performance, then give her hell, because this one will easily garner you about 5 to 10 frames per second increase, along with HDR, by the way. That should do about the same, but again, if you want to put up with the garbage butt ugly graphics, then you be my guest. But I refuse, so you guys knock yourself the F out. Another thing I've noticed that I can disable, or not disable, but lower to safely increase FPS is Real Tree Profile. Now, actually, yes, this will degrade visuals a little bit, but I mean, I haven't noticed, it's nothing that really stops the game in its tracks for me at all. For the simple fact that, okay, you can go ahead and, normally by default, this is set to Ultra, by the way. You can go ahead and safely, crack that down to medium, and you're getting a healthy little boost there, about 5 frames per second. Now, physics config, that's another thing I found that I can safely lower a little bit, because physics really has more of a bearing on your CPU than your GPU. So your GPU doesn't really matter when it comes to physics, of course. I mean, there's potential bottlenecking issues if your CPU isn't fast enough to keep up with your GPU, etc., etc. But long story short, okay, this more has to do with the CPU side of things. So I set it down to high. I mean, I can get away with putting it to ultra. I'm rocking an 8-core FX 8310 CPU at the moment. That's overclocked to 4.5 gigahertz, by the way. So right now, I can get away with putting it to ultra, but I have it on high because I like to multi-thread, and I'll be running several applications at a time, and I'll be alt-tabbing between them while I'm playing games. Unfortunately, I'm really busy, so whenever I am gaming, I still have to take care of adult responsibilities, which kind of sucks, but oh well. One last thing that I will talk about, okay? And here's another thing. Fire config. So whenever the hell fire is being rendered on screen, okay? Which, let's face it, that's a pretty damn big part of Far Cry since Far Cry 2. Far Cry 2 was like, hey, you can rain fire, hellfire on everything you see. That's kind of fucking psychotic now that I think about it. I mean, you can burn everything and everyone. That's kind of fucked up. But anyway, Okay, so normally by default, again, this is set to Ultra. You can set it down to High, Medium, Low, whatever you want to do. So, yeah, basically this will garner you a bit of a better frame rate. Maybe 1-2 frames, that's about it. But, yeah, the big ones you really, right off the bat, you want to disable, okay? Again, like, if you're looking for just a few extra frames per second, and you're not looking to break the graphics of the game, then of course Alpha2 Coverage, that's your biggest one. You want to say bye-bye to that. And where the hell did it go? Okay, let's go ahead and bring up our trusty find tool again, because we are too stupid to find it on our own. Oh, for fuck's sake, it was right in front of me. Okay, good job, Bane. Good job. You're a shining beacon of hope to others. Okay, so Alpha2 Coverage equals 0. Okay? Make damn sure. Because even if you're rocking a top-of-the-line system, there is no goddamn good reason to be running this. Okay? So, now you guys are safely educated on the Dunia engine, Kiss My Ass engine. I don't know how to pronounce it. So, let's not save, because I've already got it tweaked to my special settings that I'm happy with. Now, next we are going to cover the creation engine, specifically for Skyrim, okay? So, if you guys want to know how to increase or decrease the visual fidelity of Skyrim, let's go ahead and dive into that. Alrighty then, now for the creation engine, specifically the one Skyrim runs on. By the way, if you've been paying attention to my desktop clock, then no, you're not the first person to successfully travel through time. I actually just used the magic of editing to use that half hour to go get a coffee and unfuckulate my head. So let's dive into Skyrim. So again, if you want to know where these are, well, I mean, documents, my games, pretty simple, right? Let's dive in. By the way, if you didn't catch that, they're in the description below too. Look down there, it's all kinds of awesome information, including my my Facebook page, which I strongly recommend you click on. And there's also a like button down there. Holy shit, there's a lot of cool stuff down there. There's a like button, there's a subscribe button, there's... Oh my god, look at the wealth of information down there underneath the video! Hint, hint. Okay, so let's dive in right after I have a mouthful of coffee. Oh, that coffee makes sex with my mouth. Okay, I'm sorry you had to hear that, but let's press onward, shall we? First, we're gonna focus specifically on Skyrim Preferences. You see this little gem right here? We want that. Let's go ahead and open that. So, by default, this is a configuration setting, more commonly associated as an INI file. Okay, so open her up. Oh, look at that, it automatically displays in a notepad. We don't even have to do that bullshit with the whole right click and open with, and I know, because it's so hard, right? Right. So, let's go ahead and full screen this badass biatch. I don't even know what I'm saying at this point. Okay, let's take a look through this. Okay, so, as you're gonna notice, by the way, these are some goddamn high settings, okay? But, this is actually, what Skyrim, pre-picked for me. So, this is a completely fresh INI file. It detected my settings, and it realized, oh, hey, this fucker is capable of ultra-high settings. Let's go ahead and put him on ultra-high. So yeah, that is reason for these settings right now, because yes, my hardware is very capable of running Skyrim and, like, not breaking a sweat 60 frames per second easy. But, what are the big ones that we want to do here? Well, first, before we dive into this, I also want to make mention that, let's go ahead and minimize this, anything you do to Skyrim Preferences, you also have to do to Skyrim. So, anything you do to skyrimprefs.ini, you have to do to its jealous whore of a sister, skyrim.ini. funny. Okay, let's go ahead and open up Skyrim Preferences. I know, I'm probably getting on your guys' nerves. I'm getting on my own nerves, so that's how bad it is. First and foremost, image space. You see, do depth of field. Depth of field, okay, this is already set to 1. Well, basically, I'm probably not going to make any changes myself here, but I'm just going to point out all the changes that you can make, okay? So, do depth of field, okay? What is depth of field, Vane? Well, actually, it is a concept that has been around for generations of filmography, believe it or not. It's only started becoming a recent thing in games within the past 10 years. But what is it? Okay, first and foremost, I want you to take your hand, okay? Put it like about an inch away from your nose, okay? Notice how crystal clear your hand is. It's all pretty. You can see every little wrinkle, every little detail. You can probably even see your fingerprints. Isn't it pretty? Wow. And especially if you're stoned right now, this is making a big difference for you guys. But, no, seriously, do you notice how everything beyond your hand now is blurry as fuck? Yeah, that's depth of field, believe it or not. So, basically, the act of focusing on one object and everything else in your peripheral vision goes blurry. Therefore, this, actually, okay, I swear nothing wants to work for me tonight. Okay, I want to go ahead and 0. And guess what? You just increased your frame rate substantially. I mean, this has a massive impact on frame rate, believe it or not. This probably has a good 10 frames per second impact alone. Okay, so I'm going to switch back to 1 because, okay, 1 is enabled. 2, or not 2, god damn it. 0 is disabled, okay? So, 1 enabled, 0 disabled. So, got that? Good, because that's going to apply for basically everything we do. Good. As long as you can follow that simple step right there, you're going to have no problem in the rest of this. But for those of you that don't get it, put on your helmet and water wings, you're in for a rough ride. Okay, next one. Radial blur. What the hell is radial blur, Vane? Well, radial blur is, have you ever gone super duper duper fast, okay, in any mode of transportation or god forbid running? I don't know how you can run that fast to cause radial blur, but fuck, you're way faster than I am. Basically that is when you start getting tunnel vision. You're going so fast that the world around you is a blur except what's directly in front of you. So you'll notice a blur effect around the borders of the screen. So obviously this can be zeroed for a massive, substantial increase in frames per second. Kinda goes without saying, right? Right. Now, let's take a look at, okay, so pretty much shadows. Big killer frame rates alike. Okay, so blur, deferred shadow, mask, okay, that alone right there. What that does right there is it blurs shadows to give them a better sense of realism because, I mean, shadows generally in the real world, in the world that you and I live in, not the virtual one, but you get it, okay? Shadows generally have a smoother edge, kind of like a little bit more. It's not a sharp edge on shadows, and it's definitely not a jaggy one. Shadows tend to have a more blurred outer rim, right? Now, this is exactly what this fucker does, okay? So it's almost like anti-aliasing for shadow in a way, if you think about it. But zeroing this obviously will help you immensely. Goes without saying, you'll have much sharper shadows, but, I mean, cost for realism equals performance. Alternately, yeah, we can bump this up to 3. I believe it can be bumped all the way up to 5 if you have the specs to do it, which I actually do, but I'm just going to keep it at 3. Fuck it. I'll tweak this another time for myself. Interior shadow distance. This is how far, okay, let me go ahead and highlight that. Okay, so this is well, it kind of actually speaks for itself. It is the distance in which shadows are visible indoors. So basically, actually, this is actually kind of useless even on high-end systems, because if you think about it, okay, there are shadows around corners, through walls and stuff like that you're not seeing on screen, okay, that the game is actually rendering for no reason. I mean, you can't see them through a wall, so what's the point of a shadow being rendered that far away in the first place, right? So even on high-end systems, I recommend fucking knocking this down to, like, okay, right now it's 3,000. Fuck, you could go as low as, like, 100 if you wanted to. You could go as low as 20. You could, I mean, feel welcome to go, like, even fucking 5. Like, that'll even do it. Actually, I think that's bad right there. I think that's actually increasing the distance substantially. What you'd probably want to do is 0.5. Right? So, actually, probably be, well, where it was represented by the thousands, right? We'd probably want to go like that. And that'd be like 5.0. That'd be like, I don't know, like, what that means, if it's like meters, if it's feet, whatever it is. Basically, you're lowering that substantially. Hell, you can even zero that out and completely kill shadows on interiors. So dynamic shadows, they won't appear at all. So goodbye realism, we won't miss you. But let's go ahead and switch that back to the default ultra high settings, which I'm going to be rocking later. Shadow distance, again, this is something that can be tweaked to God knows infinite. You could probably, like, if you're rocking a fucking supercomputer, you can go up to 100,000 million kajillion trillion, but I don't even know what the fuck that number is anymore. You could go to that, okay? But if you're looking for performance, you can go 0. Okay? That effectively kills shadow distance. So, shadows aren't rendered at any distance. Cool? Cool. So, basically, you know, I don't even remember what the hell this was set to. I think it was like 8,000, wasn't it? I don't know. Okay, so with that disabled, we don't even need to tweak the eyeshadow map resolution. I mean, because if you got it disabled, then shadow resolution doesn't matter for shit, considering you're not seeing shadows. Does it really matter? But, okay, say you do actually want pretty shadows, okay? Pretty shadows. So we can go 40, oh god, my math sucks. 40, 90, okay, 20, 48, yeah, so we want to go 40, 96, okay? So, we're going by hex values, basically, so, basically, 56, 128, so on, or, no, 64, 128, you know, so on and so forth, and multiples like that. So I'm not even getting into hex right now, so let's not even go there. So you can be crazy and do that right there, 4096 for both, and you got pretty shadows that are high resolution and crisp and glorious, right? So if that's what you're aiming to do, go for it. But if you're planning on garnering performance and extra frames per second, then go ahead and leave them at the default, because you've already disabled shadows, so this variable doesn't fucking matter whatsoever. Okay, so next, max anisotropy. Okay, what's anisotropy? Well, it is basically how detailed textures are at a distance. 16 is usually the benchmark for, like, high-end systems, and to be honest, okay, when I was rocking the Radeon HD 3000, remember all those years ago? Yeah. By the way, if any of you guys have been watching since then, fucking thank you. You were awesome people, and I fucking love you. Fucking internet high five. You're awesome. You are a rock star. Okay, but anisotropy, okay? That is the distance in which things like textures are rendered. So basically, further away textures, they're gonna look a lot more pretty and detailed and shiny and stuff. Okay, so easy enough. 16 is usually how high it can go. I mean, if you want to, for whatever reason, because this really doesn't have a performance impact, in my opinion, whatsoever. Like, you're not gonna see a negative or positive performance impact. You're just gonna see a visual impact. Okay, so we can change that to 0 and completely disable anisotropy, and then the game is probably going to run on like bilinear or linear, whatever graphics it is, trilinear. Could run on any of those. I have no idea. It's probably running on bilinear though. So you want to go ahead and knock that up to 16. Don't knock it up because then you're on then you're paying child support, and that's a whole ugly. Anyway, let's not get into that. Leaf animation, I'm guessing dampen distance in. I've never really touched those because I've never noticed a big decrease in frames per second regardless. But if I had to take a guess, and I'm not too positive what these do, but I'm going to take an educated guess that obviously it has to do with leaf animation. So when you see leaves falling from trees, etc., you might be able to zero these out for a half decent frame rate boost. So I wouldn't doubt it. Gamma, that kind of goes without saying. That is basically what controls the ungodly white balance threshold of your screen, so you probably don't want to fuck with that. That's probably a bad thing. Specular LOD. Now here is another son of a bitch that can be zeroed out for a massive frame rate increase, but be warned, you're about to cause garbage graphics if you do this, because specular has everything to do with that wonderful thing we were dealing with back in the Dunia engine, UB fucked up engine. That HDR setting, okay, high dynamic range, okay, basically same idea here. You zero this out and you're looking at terrible lighting. The lighting is going to be flat everywhere. It's not going to really matter where you go, what you do in game, everything's gonna look like crap, so get ready for that. You can have the adverse effect by, I'm pretty sure these values can be like blasted as far as you can possibly put them. Like, for example, I'm pretty sure this can fly upwards of like 10,000 or whatever the hell you want to put in there. So let's go ahead and put that back to its default at 2,000. But again, you can go like this, and you're going to garner some seriously good frames per second. Okay, now let's put it back to 2,000. Okay, shadow LOD start fade. This is another thing where we're going to want to focus on if you wish to disable shadows. This is another thing that you have to completely disable. This one controls shadows in exteriors. So we're talking about the wide open plains of Skyrim. We're talking about the forest, the deserts, the mountain range, the okay, so you got the idea. You're not stupid. Okay, zero it out for a big performance boost, so, 0. There, it's disabled. Shadows, bye-bye. We won't miss you. Well, I will. But, go ahead and crank them the hell up if you have a high enough end system. I mean, keep going. You can do that all you want. So that's not going to hurt you if you're on a high-end system. But if you're on a low-end system, I'd imagine you want to make that a 0. Okay, so F light LOD start to fade. That's another thing you want to do if you want to disable shadows, okay? Actually, I'm pretty sure. Oh no, actually, this one is not shadow specifically, but this one is okay. If say you have a torch in game, okay, you're walking through a dark, damp, dank cave. I think I already said danked, but I said it twice because I mean it. God damn it, it's dank. Okay, you zero this sucker out, and that light is only going to shine on the walls in your immediate area. Like anything beyond like 1 inch of your character is not going to be illuminated by that torch. See what I'm getting at? So you want to stretch that out? Fine. You want to zero it out? Yes, you're going to get a performance boost, but at the cost of like much realism and graphics. It's going to look like absolute garbage again, but yeah, you kind of get the idea by now, right? Right. So let's move onward. Okay, what else can we do here? So there is Text bitmap minimum. No, we don't want to screw with these. Water multi-samples. Okay, this probably goes without saying, but this is goddamn anti-aliasing for water. For water. Water! Yeah, we obviously don't want this enabled, okay? There's just no reason to Oh, that hurts my brain just thinking about it. There's no fucking reason to anti-alias water, okay? There's never a good... Holy mother of God. Okay, so apparently the game thinks that my rig is very capable of pulling 16 MSAA samples. What is MSAA? Well, it's multi-sample anti-aliasing. It's probably the most brute force form of anti-aliasing out there. It's probably the most resource intense form of anti-aliasing. Somehow Skyrim seems to think, oh hey, if system is good enough, let's crank it up to 16 times. And then it like fucking went and taste tested bullets. Because no, even on my system, that gets zeroed out. Because I don't believe in anti-aliasing whatsoever. Oh, and I really should have clarified that back in the whole Dunia engine thing, because I know I didn't explain it. I guess I thought you guys were smart enough to know what anti-aliasing is, but for those that don't, okay, and I know there probably are people that don't know, and I'm not saying you're stupid whatsoever, because, I mean, we're not all tech savvy, and I get that. So, multi-sample anti-aliasing, or any form of anti-aliasing for that matter, because there are so many forms of it nowadays. I can't even keep up. There's FXAA, there's also, oh god, I think there's TXAA with NVIDIA now. There's so many bloody forms of this, I can't keep up. But, long story short, all it does is, if you've ever looked at a video game and you see some, like, along the edges of certain character models or places in game or something like that, you see kind of a staircase effect, like pixels. That's what we call jaggies, okay? In the PC gaming biz, world thing, gaming, whatever, that's what we call jaggies, okay? Now, anti-aliasing works to reduce the appearance of jaggies and smooth out those edges, to make them to give them a more sense of realism. But here's the thing. You can easily counter anti-aliasing and counter jaggies by simply increasing this. Okay, you know what this is? This is your resolution, okay? So right now I obviously have Skyrim set to 1080p. Okay, the higher the resolution, the less you're going to notice jaggies. In today's day and age, okay, with 1080p monitors, with the ability to hook a graphics card directly using HDMI to a monitor, to an HD monitor or TV, you can actually set up an HD TV right on your desk, or you can set up your desktop computer right on your big screen HD TV via HDMI nowadays. It's actually very easy. Nowadays, games can easily achieve 1080p, okay? It's not hard. Now, since it can achieve such a high resolution, the appearance of jaggies has been strongly decreased because we have more pixels on screen, thus reducing the appearance of these big blocky jaggies. So, there is no good reason to use multi-sample fucking anti-aliasing. Not even if you're using a top-end system. Like, if you're using anti-aliasing, I'm gonna point and laugh at you, because there is no good reason, in my opinion. None. Zero. Eat a dick. Okay? Just bag of dicks. Eat them. Okay, so moving onwards. Without saying, okay, so trees receive shadows and draw land shadows. Well, actually, I'm going to set that to 1, because I can easily get away with it. Okay, so draw land shadows, say like you have a mountain range and the sun is starting to slowly just slide behind those mountains. You're going to see those mountains cast a shadow as that sun moves behind those mountains, correct? Same idea. It's pretty much self-explanatory. Draw land shadows, right? So, those are a form of dynamic shadows. Therefore, turning them off will net you a huge performance boost. Right? Right. Pretty easy. Trees receive shadows. Now, that is beyond self-explanatory. If I need to explain that, there is something wrong. But basically, I'm going to anyway, because Why the fuck not? It's almost 2 in the morning by my clock, and I have nothing better to do, so let's just bug you guys with the fucking fine details. Trees receive shadows. Goes without saying that trees receive shadows. Therefore, trees cast shadows. And what do shadows do? They impact your frame rate. Like frat boys impact a fucking keg on a Friday night. So, you want to keep this at 0 if you're looking for performance. If you're looking for reason, you're looking for, oh god, why can't I think? If you're looking for, graphical fidelity. There's a word. Go Vane. Oh, pat on the back for you, buddy. Okay, if you're looking for graphical fidelity, go ahead, set that to 1, which I'm gonna. So, because, well, I can get away with it. Let's go ahead and do that. So, yeah, these we really don't want to screw with, so don't touch them. That's your mesh LOD, so basically, that's something your in-game textures rely heavily on. Don't touch them. Just don't, okay? Now, let's take a look here. Shadow Mask Zeb Pass. So that's an extra rendering, basically. It's like a secondary rendering for shadows. Obviously, zero it out. It's going to net you a big frame rate increase. Now, let's take a look here. Max decals per frame. Actually, you can probably knock this down to 10. It's going to cause a lot of in-game decals. Like, what are decals? Well, decals are like little objects. Like, it could be like pieces of straw on the ground. It can be like pieces of like bodies and stuff that fell on the ground. It can be like if you swing your sword at the wall or something and it leaves a mark in the wall. Okay, those are decals. Okay. How many do you want on screen at a time is what this is asking. Now, you can safely lower this to 1 if you want to, and guess what? It is going to have a big performance increase, but again, you're sacrificing realism. But adversely, you can crank it up for more realism. So go well beyond 100 if you want. Be my fucking guest. Now, and of course, that's my device there, AMD R7 200 series, but I'm rocking the 260X. So another form of anti-aliasing, FX8A enabled, 0. Fuck you, anti-aliasing. No one loves you, not even your own mom. Your mom tried to abort you. Oh, that was fucking dark. What is wrong with me? Okay, moving onward. Shadow map resolution. This is the final thing in the shadows category that we must disable so that we don't have any shadows, because fuck you, shadows. Again, no one loves you. So you want performance? Go ahead, put it to 0, but you ain't getting no shadows. No shadows for you. So I am so sorry I did that. Okay, let's go ahead and put that back to 4096 because I like me some shadowy goodness. And with that, you really don't need to touch these, because by that point, if you have this sucker here zeroed out, you ain't getting no shadows. Now, finally, another thing we really want to disable, and I even disable this no matter what. I don't care what kind of system I am rocking. This right here gets disabled. Try to guess what this is. You know, just by the name, you would never guess. You would never, ever guess. This, okay, this, believe it or not, is a form of vertical sync. VSync, to be exact. What is VSync? Well, VSync is that wonderful thing that causes shitty input lag so as to prevent screen tearing. But here's the beautiful part about iPresent interval, okay? It is a form of VSync. Even if you have the in-game VSync disabled, this fucker will still be enabled. Therefore, you still have a form of VSync enabled, no matter what. And if you've ever noticed input lag in Skyrim, this is the fucker right here that causes it. And no matter what. I don't care what system you're rocking, there is no good excuse to have this enabled. Hit 0 and move along. So there's really not a lot else we can do, but actually, yeah, there's a few other things. Okay, for example, grass, for example. Grass, now, actually, when I was rocking the HD 3000, I did notice one thing. Grass bared hell on your performance. You really want to reduce grass. If you're on a very stupidly low-end system and you want to crank performance, then your best bet is actually to get rid of grass altogether in game, which it is entirely possible. So this one right here, F grass start fade distance. If you hit 0, okay, so let's take 700 and go 0. Guess what? You just disabled grass. Bye-bye, grass. No one loves you. So that's how that works. No, not 70,000. Good God, no, not even on my system. So, you can effectively kiss grass goodbye. Oh, and I also forgot to mention, god damn it. So, the resolution probably goes without saying. I guess I need to stop with the mindset that you guys already know all this, because I do, and I'm pretty much assuming you do too, but I gotta stop that mindset. Now, you see this, okay? This is currently set to 1080p. Most low-end systems that I know of cannot do 1080p, right? So there is no in-game way to set it to 640 by 480, which I was happy to have when I was rocking the HD 3000. And 640 by 480, so you want to knock that down. So this is effectively, you're overriding the in-game. So, because in-game, I'm pretty damn sure in Skyrim you can't go lower than 800 by 600. But by bypassing the game altogether, we can go 640 by 480 like this, okay? Now, that will actually knock the game down to 640 by 480 resolution. So that's 640 pixels by 480 pixels. That is not a lot of pixels. So obviously expect very blocky, chunky visuals, okay? But I'm going to set it back to 1080p because, well, my system, right? So I can achieve it after about 4 grueling goddamn years of building this rig. You know, I can finally achieve some pleasant visuals. But remember, kids, it all takes time. Be patient when building your awesome computer. Okay? So it all comes in time. Now, mouse acceleration. You see this sucker right here under controls? Now, this doesn't really have an impact on performance, but it's just more... Okay, if you're an avid PC gamer, you know why this is a bad poopy thing, okay? So, go ahead, disable it. Basically, it's not using raw... Oh, what the hell did I do? Okay, get the 0 out of there, put it there. Congrats, Thane, you're a winner. Okay, so, mouse acceleration at 0, okay? Mouse acceleration, it means your mouse pointer, okay, will accelerate as you slide your mouse. Like, say for example, let's lower that for a second. You can probably see my cursor this way. So let's say I'm sliding across the screen. That's going to pick up speed as it goes. So it's not detecting raw input. It's just making the damn thing go faster and faster and faster as you're going further and further, right, with the mouse pointer. So obviously, bad thing if you want raw input. So yeah, go ahead and zero that out no matter what. Also, fair to note, in competitive multiplayer games, that can also be the difference between life and death. Just saying. Now, another thing we want to focus on. You see this fucker here? Max desired particles. So this is basically under the particles section, okay? Now, I max desired. Now, this is going to ask, okay, how many particles do you want rendered on screen at one time? Well, that's good. Okay, 750. Well, I can do that for you, honey. Yeah, so, go ahead and punch that in the face, and you can knock that right down to 0. So, yeah, you can have effectively 0 particles. What are particles? Well, I mean, it's not really hard to figure out. I mean, okay, in-game snow when it's snowing. each one of those snowflakes, that's a particle. When you're looking at flames, the wisp of smoke and little sparks and flames coming off it, those are particles. So if you knock this down to 0, by the way, you're not even going to see flames. Just saying. So let's go ahead and set that to 75. So that's a particle. Yeah, that's a paddling. Don't even think about that. That's a paddling. Yeah. Yeah. Obscure Simpsons reference from the early 90s. Woo, go me. Okay, so there are a few more things we can cover here. Now, B rendered skin trees and scrind. I don't know what the fuck scrind is, but okay, it's apparently something now. IMAX skin trees to render 20. Now, I will be honest, this really doesn't have an impact on frame rate per se at all, but anyway, you can experiment with this all you want. This is not going to hurt anything, but it basically just it's how detailed in skin the trees are, like how many detailed trees can be shown on screen at one time. So if you knock that down to 0, they're all going to look like sprite trees, and it's going to look like absolute trash. And I haven't found that, increasing or decreasing this necessarily impacts performance whatsoever. So you can pass this rate up anyway, but be my guest to experiment with it. And if you find otherwise, then let me know how much of a stupid, wrong douchebag I am in the comment section. I look forward to it. Okay, now let's finally look at this fucker right here. Blur Shader HDR. Hello, our old friend HDR. High dynamic range. Now, if you were listening about... Holy shit, I've been at this for like an hour and a half now. Good God. If you were listening about an hour ago when we were doing the Dunia engine, Ubisoft fucked up engine, high dynamic range controls a lot of lighting aspects. Disabling this is cringeworthy graphics. Go ahead and disable it for a huge ass performance boost, but be prepared for absolutely no realism and garbage graphics. Got that? Good. And what do we do to disable it again? Obviously we put it to 0. Congrats, you have just passed the course. So yeah, that's basically it. I guess at one time, Skyrim was planning on implementing motion blur. Goddamn thank fuck they didn't. If there's one thing I can't stand besides anti-aliasing, it's motion blur. Motion blur is absolute garbage. I feel like I need to take a gravel the size of a manhole cover after sitting there playing a game full of motion blur for more than an hour. So, yeah, I can't be asked to enable motion blur in any game, so thank God Skyrim didn't fully implement it. I mean, you can enable this all you want, you can put it to 1, guess what, it ain't gonna do shit, because it's not a part of the game. Why is it in the config file? Maybe they were getting ready to implement it, but they had to change heart at the last moment, I guess, but all I can say is thank God, Bethesda, you have brains. I like you. We can be friends. So let's go ahead and 0 that out. Yeah, what the hell, let's save that. Okay. Now, finally, we're going to tackle the Skyrim INI. So, if you fell asleep, wake the fuck up, okay? We only gotta trek through a little bit longer, okay? Just stay with me. I promise this will all be over soon. Alright, now let's finally talk about Skyrim INI and a couple of CPU optimizations that we can do to Skyrim, among other things. So let's go ahead and open this sucker up. Oh look, it magically opens in a notepad all by itself by double clicking. Oh yeah, that's right, you guys already knew that from Skyrim Preferences. Let's move on, and I'll stop prattling. Okay, so first thing we're going to look at is U exterior cell buffer. Okay, now this can be safely lowered to values of like 20 and so on and so forth. Basically, it kind of does much of the same. It actually works in tandem with UGrid's load. So basically, if you alter this sucker here, you're going to want to alter this sucker here for basically optimal effect. Because, okay, these suckers tend to work in tandem. What do? Well, they control, it's much like anisotropy, only a little bit different. Okay, basically, U-grids the load, for example. It basically loads how many grids ahead. Now, grids, I mean like spaces in front of you, okay? So basically, mine is cranked up to 9, okay? So basically, the square grids that make up the game, okay? Those textures, everything beyond that, the terrain, all that stuff is going to look nice and shiny and crisp and sparkly, and yeah, you get the picture. So basically, everything well within my line of sight is going to look all crisp and sharp and everything, but let's say that we down this to 1. Now, remember when I was talking about the whole torch scenario in a cave when you're screwing with high dynamic range and specular and lighting distance? Think about that only with textures, okay? So, like, where I was talking about the lighting not being able to reach past an inch past your character and it'll only reflect off of what's in your immediate surroundings, think like the same thing, only with textures. Because, and what the hell just happened to my system? All the icons flickered. Whatever. Anyway, okay, back on topic. So, U-grids load, okay? So basically, it does the same thing, only with textures. So basically everything within, like, if I got this set to 1, everything within a foot of my character is going to look like muddy garbage. So it's not ideal, but this will net you a massive performance increase. But even at a value of 3, this is going to be somewhat noticeable. But at the same time, it's going to be a lot more playable. It's going to be a little more pretty. But at the same time, you're going to notice textures on the ground about, I'd say, about 6 to 10 feet in front of you. They're going to be muddy as fuck. So it's going to look like less of a ground and more like Play-Doh is what it's going to look like. So when you screw with this, you want to screw with her ugly, like, sister at the same time. So we want to knock that down, let's say 50 or something like that. Just basically knock them down in similar intervals and you should be okay. So I'm not getting into the whole math side of this because I can't math to save my life. Yeah, but anyway, we're just gonna set those right back to where they were, and preload size limit. Now, to be completely honest, I can't tell you exactly what this does. It has something to do with your RAM memory, I know that for a fact. So, yeah, you're probably gonna want to knock that down to realistic levels. I would say probably 100, or, well, okay, there's 7 figures. I'd say like 1 million, something like that, if you're on a low-end system. So go ahead and knock that down. Now, these, okay, there is a lot of these that I actually manually added because a lot of these are not here by default. For example, U-grids the load. That's not there by default. I had to actually manually add that. And I will be linking to the website where I added those from, okay? And they go into far more detail about what these actually do, but I can't really be asked right now to go into full-on detail because if any of you are still awake, I'm surprised at this point. And if you've made it this far into the video, well, holy shit, you are a hero. So now, these here, okay? Not the last one, but okay. Goddamn, work with me. Okay, so these 4 right here had to be manually added to the INI. What are these? Threaded effects, threaded particle system, thread movement, thread morpher. Now, if you guys have any idea about CPUs in general, you understand they work on a threaded concept. So a thread is a different application, it's a different program, it's something running in the background, okay? So basically the amount of threads determines, threads plus the amount of power, raw power your CPU has determines how much multitasking you can do at any one time. So basically, what these wonderful options do here, it makes far better use of your CPU in game, because this way you're allocating different aspects of the game engine to different cores of your CPU. So if you only have a dual core CPU, this is not going to do shit for you, so don't bother, okay? Just leave these alone, move on your way. You don't need this, okay? So if you're only rocking a dual core, ignore all of this, okay? If you have a quad core or higher, like I do, if you have an 8-core processor, a 6-core processor, a 4-core processor, it is strongly to your benefit to pay strong attention to this, okay? And also follow the link in the description because this will help you immensely, okay? So these variables right here, these will offload different parts of the game engine to different cores on your CPU so that your CPU is not bogged down and bottlenecking from, well, let's face it, poor optimization on Bethesda's part, because it's not a Bethesda game unless it's like bugged worse than a fucking house riddled with bed bugs, hornets, and fucking beetles, okay? So that's the endearing part of Bethesda. We all love them because, let's face it, they make awesome games, but they're bugged to hell. So, basically, this offloads your CPU better, makes better use of your threads, your cores, what have you. So, go ahead and add this if you have a quad core or higher, okay? Now, let's move it along, move along. Shadow map resolution. Remember how I said, okay, actually, there's quite a few of them. See these? We actually tackled this in the Skyrim Preferences INI. So if you disabled them over in the Skyrim Preferences, go ahead and disable them here. Or if you made any changes to them at all and you increase them here too, okay? So, eyeshadow map resolution primary, okay? So if you made your shadows sharper, make them sharper here. If you disabled them, zero it out here. Got it? Good. So I'm going to continue on, assuming that you're not stupid at this point and you've been listening up until now. Good? Good. Okay, so allow create grass. If you knock down the distance for grass to load in Skyrim Preferences and zero it out here too. That will completely disable your effing grass. Goodbye, grass. You just got mowed. Oh my god. Yeah, I seriously just did that. Now, man, that was a horrible pun. I should be shot for that. Okay, background load. That, yeah, load. Okay, focus, goddammit, Vane. Okay, background load. Now, this was another thing that was not here by default. This had to be manually entered from the website that I grabbed them from. Again, all this really does is offloads your CPU far more efficiently. So basically, here core number 0, you have this. Here core number 1, you have this. Core number 2, core number 3, core number 4, so on and so forth. You get it. So basically, this will offload different tasks to different cores of your CPU, making far better use of your CPU, putting far less stress on it, instead of all cores doing everything at once. Right? Makes sense. Now, this will be in the description. As I said, all these variables that can be added to these scripts will be found in the link below. Follow it to that website. It goes into far more detail than I ever could. Now, animation, that's another CPU optimization that can be added from the website below. Okay, again, it offloads animations to, of course, your CPU far better. Decals, that's another thing that can be added from link below. You got it. Okay, now Havoc, number of threads. According to the website that I pulled this from, again, this is another variable that got pulled from that website. Now, this is supposed to determine, like, by default, Skyrim doesn't know how many CPU cores you're rocking. You could have a fucking million, and Skyrim's gonna be like, he only has 2 cores, I'm gonna treat it like it has 2 cores. And I don't know why I'm singing like a goddamn hillbilly and why Skyrim is a fucking who cares. Okay, so, I number threads. So threads means cores, okay? how many cores does your CPU have? Now, I'm an 8-core CPU, and now I'm guessing this is going by Task Manager logic here, because usually in Task Manager it'll show your cores. If you go to an application, set affinity, it'll show your CPU cores, and it doesn't actually go from 1 to 8, it goes from 0 to 7 if you're on an 8-core processor like I am. So if you're on a 6-core processor, it's going to go 0 to 5. It's going to go from 0 to 3 on a 4-core processor. So basically, it's the same logic works here. So basically 7 would be your maximum core on an 8-core processor, right? So this way, I'm telling the game that I have 8 cores that it can use. So have at it, Haas. They're all at your fucking disposal. Be my guest. Rate my CPU. Got it? Good. Okay, but I was actually recommended by the website not to put this over 5 because apparently Skyrim has problems, issues, blah, blah, blah. But I've actually been playing for a little bit. I've actually played a little bit before on my 8-core CPU, and I've had this value set to 7, and I've had no problems. In fact, it's been butter fucking smooth. So however many cores you have, just knock it down one number from the actual value. So let's say 8 cores, 7. 6 cores, 5. 4 cores, 3. You get it. Okay? Cool. Let's move on. And that is basically that for that, actually. Now that I'm thinking about it. There is a few other things that you can do. Actually, that website's going to demonstrate a few other things that you can add to this here, but I really don't recommend them unless you're really anal about, tweaking and you really want the most out of your script. But the ones that I showed you specifically right here, right now, it's going to do one of two things. It's going to either dramatically, there's that speech impediment again, showing his fucking ugly head. It's either going to give you a massive performance boost, or you're going to see a huge increase in visual quality. So basically, that's all you really need to know. You don't need to know anything beyond that, like the whole Papyrus, I don't even know how to fucking pronounce it, Papyrus system and all that, which is the scripting system that the creation engine works on. Basically, there are things that you can add to that for special effects and stuff like that, but who cares? But, oh yes, another thing, water, okay? Right here, you can actually determine the quality of water. So you see things like reflect LOD, reflect land, reflect sky, reflect trees. That shit's self-explanatory. Basically, zero those out if you don't want to see that shit reflected in water. So, yeah, that's basically it. And that will actually net you a pretty good frame rate increase as well if you want to disable that. But if you're like me and you're rocking a half-decent system, then go ahead and keep them on 1 because they ain't going to do shit to you, okay? So that's basically that, and yeah, let's just go ahead and save the changes. So, yeah, that has been Tweaking 101 for this installment. God only knows when the next installment will be, considering, it's been, like I said, about 2 years since the last one. Well, hopefully it won't be that long again, because let's be honest, I got really, really bored tonight, and I just said, the hell with it, I'm making a video. That's exactly what I'm goddamn doing. And that's what I did. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. And if any of you actually stayed awake through the whole damn thing, and you actually watched it to the end, holy mother of God, you're a hero. Somebody give this fucker a standing ovation. He is awesome. He is a rock star. Like, hang on. I gotta put my mic down just so I can... To you, the person who actually stayed and watched the whole goddamn thing. That one's for you, buddy. Okay, but that is my time. So, as always, take care, and you rock.